Hello everyone and welcome to Long's Toys. I have another Transformers The Last Night review for you today. This is Premier Edition Deluxe Class Decepticon Berserker. Basically he is kind of a Chevy SUV, as you can see here on the back, that transforms into this Decepticon. I'm wondering if he's going to be like a character or more of a grunt. I'm not really sure. I haven't seen the movie yet. Obviously it doesn't come out for about another month and a half, something like that. But he really reminds me of one that we got in, I believe it was Dark of the Moon, called Crankcase, which is a very kind of similar design, very similar vehicle mode, and very similar robot design. But he kind of had big claws, kind of similar to these claws, but they were more like, reminded me of like the Insecticon shrapnel. But in any case, here is the side of the packaging. It says Decepticon Berserker Raging Destroyer. It's one of the few new molds in this first wave. Bumblebee is not a new mold, neither is Slash, and those four make up the deluxe class for this first wave. So we'll go ahead, we'll get Berserker out of the packaging, and we'll take a closer look. So here's Berserker out of the packaging. I really like the robot mode. It's, it's very straightforward. He doesn't have a ton of kibble. He's got a little bit of a backpack, because he is a little bit of a shell former, but we'll get into that in a minute. But I think the robot mode kind of works. I like how he has this angle to his feet. I think that makes it a little bit more interesting and makes him seem more kind of bestial, which is kind of neat if he is going to be like a grunt. I like these little spikes here on the back of his shoulders. He does have little heels here in the foot, but they're a little weird in my opinion. And I feel like, he can stand, but it's kind of weird as far as the balance goes. Like, he's always kind of falling on those back heels. And I feel like they just needed to angle this part of the foot a little differently, or make the heel just maybe a little bit more at an angle so that like this made a flat plane like this. But I don't know. He can stand decently. It's just the heels are a little wonky in my opinion. But I like the overall color scheme, mostly like a gunmetal gray and black with a little bit of red and orange for accent. I think that looks pretty cool. Taking a close look here at the head sculpt, you can see he's got kind of like 4 eye slots with 2 eyes kind of in each. So he's got kind of a spider quality there. And I like the horns and the way they kind of did like the kind of machine gun chains as, or maybe they're supposed to be like belts of a car, I'm not sure, but I like that look. It kind of gives him like, I want to say dreads or some kind of hair, but it's a neat design. And then he's got a red X painted on his chest. I'm not really sure why he has that, but overall I really do like the robot mode for this figure. I think he looks pretty neat. He comes with 2 accessories that, as far as I can tell, are exactly the same. See if I can get him to stand. It's really all about shifting his weight. But yeah, here are the accessories. They're kind of a soft plastic, at least at the end, because it's where it's kind of thinnest. But they look exactly the same to me. They're just kind of like little melee weapons, and they can just peg right into his hands very easily. And then he's kind of ready to mess somebody up with his short little dagger melee weapons. But I like that. I think it looks pretty cool. Pretty fun there. So articulation wise, the head is kind of on this joint that can, and I'll see if I can get in there so you can see it. But you can see obviously the head itself is on a ball joint, but then that joint can kind of move forward and back. So if you want him to have, I think this is mostly for the transformation, like to push it all the way up. But you can kind of have the head kind of come down like he's, again, it kind of gives him more of like a bestial berserker quality, which makes sense for his name. Like his head is, very pitched forward like he's in the fight. So I kind of like that. These little spiky things are on a ball joint, so you can move them around a little bit. I think that's kind of cool. I like their inclusion. That is a problem. As you'll see, these pieces kind of fall off a little bit. We'll get into that in a second. Ball joint in the shoulder, plus there's a second joint here inside the actual like torso because of the transformation, so you can move the arms around a decent bit because of that. There is a bicep swivel. There is 90 degrees in the elbow, And then the ankles, yeah, the ankles, that's what they are. The wrists can bend forward again because of the transformation, so they don't really have articulation that makes sense for the robot mode. Now this car piece, as you can see, pegs into the arm here. And it's kind of a bummer that they fall off. I mean, I guess you could have it be battle damage if you'd like to simulate that while you're playing with your toy. But you could even just super glue them on there if you wanted to, just so they don't fall off. It's not a big deal. I mean, you can peg them right back in. I just wish they didn't fall off. No articulation in the waist, but you have a ball joint in the hip. And then you have a thigh swivel. And then you have this joint here in the knee, and then also kind of here in the, I don't want to call it a second knee, and it's not really the ankle. It's kind of like a joint in the mid-thigh. I don't know. I guess that's not really, the thigh would be up here, so maybe the mid-shin? I don't know. I don't know what to call it. I'm not a doctor, you know what I mean? In any case, if you really wanted to straighten out the leg, you could. So he could look like that, but then the heels, I feel like, work even less. It does give him some height back. Pan out here. So, you know, it gives him a height, but I think it doesn't look right. I think you're definitely going to want to bend the knees like this. Because, again, if he's really a berserker, you know, he's got kind of a bestial quality to him. And I feel like, you know, with the head cocked forward and the legs almost like constantly ready to spring forward into a fight, it all kind of lends to the characteristics of a berserker. Like always charging forward, not looking back. That's kind of how a berserker would act. So I think it's kind of neat that the robot mode kind of signifies that. So good design. I like it a lot. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the robot mode. Like I said, because of, you know, there not really being any waist articulation, you don't really mind the kibble on his back. I even actually think it folds up pretty well, and I like the look of it. The butt flap is a little, you know, of a bummer, but you could pull it down if you want a little bit. But it tucks fairly decently. Obvious Chevy symbol right there on the front, since they pretty much sponsor these movies. But yeah, like I said, with the exception of, you know, me sometimes having trouble having him stand because of the heels, that's really my only complaint. I wish they would have done a little bit something better to get the feet to kind of work out better in my opinion. I don't really know how to describe it, but better heels, I think, would have helped this character not fall over, which seems like obvious, but that's kind of good, actually. If you can get it to, that's actually pretty good. So you want them like that. It's all about finding balance, like I said. Once you can find balance, you get a really nice pose out of them. Pretty cool. So let's go ahead, put the accessories off to the side, and we'll get into the transformation. So the transformation is fairly straightforward, but it can be a little bit of a pain because he is kind of a shell former. You're going to start by pulling these panels down, and you can see that that kind of forms what's going to be the rear of the SUV. And then you can fold those wrists back, as I showed earlier. They tuck down like that. So that rotates down like that. You're going to come to the spikes, and you can see that there's a tab right here. And there is a big, and it's going to be hard to see because of the black, but right there where my finger is, there's a tab slot. And you're just going to peg these in. Now these little horns or spikes, whatever you'd like to call them, they're a softer plastic than the rest of the toy. So pegging them in is not going to be like 100%. You're going to have to, you know, just be careful with them. At this point, you're going to fold these straight up, and you can pull this back all the way up like that. That's what that second joint's for in the shoulder chest area. So you're just going to kind of keep this up here. They don't peg into each other. They just kind of hang out here for now. You're going to come down to the legs and straighten them out. Straighten them completely. You can fold up the heels as far as they'll go, and then you'll point them in towards each other rotating on the thigh swivel. So they should face in each other like that. Now there is a joint in the waist, so like you can do an ab crunch, and you can put the head like as far back as it'll go, and then you're going to do the ab crunch, and that's going to kind of put the car down, basically get him to kind of do an ab crunch so that he lies on top of himself, and that's what forms the car. So you're going to want to move these panels a little bit out of the way, not 100% yet. And they have, you can see there's two hinges. There's one here and one here. So you kind of want to make sure that they're smooth, and they'll come into play later. I just kind of put them out to the side like that. So getting in close here, this is where it can start to get wonky and kind of fall in on itself. But there is, if you can see right here, a little slot, and then right, where's the other part? Oh, right here. And that's going to tab into this tab right here. So you kind of have to situate this and then tab it in on the gray piece here, and then tab the foot into that other spot I showed you earlier. And you kind of have to just, and I'm sure I'm not showing this well enough, and I apologize. And it takes a little bit of time to kind of get it to work, because it's a lot of like finding the tabs and pegging it together. But once you get it flush, it should stay together fairly well. It's just making sure everything's at the right angle, because if you have one thing like rotated a little bit too much one way, it'll throw it off. You're going to come to that backpack and lift this a little bit out of the way, and this will all completely accordion out. So this will flip out like that, and then flip out again like that. And this has two tabs on the side, one here and one here, and they're going to tab into holes on the inside. Oh, wow. All right. Or I could completely knock my camera around. It's an earthquake! In any case, and it's going to be hard to see, but you can see right there, there's tab holes on the inside. So you're going to rock this back, and then it will sit in here, and then this will tab into that, and then tab into this. And I'm doing this all off camera because I'm the worst at this today. Sorry about that. There we go. So you can see that's pretty much the back of the car. And it helps if you just make sure, like I said, depending on how much you have this rotated, you might want to, it's at the thigh swivel, and I know my fingers are making a mess here, but that'll help you making sure like the wheels line up, because if you have one wheel up here and one wheel pointed in, or vice versa, you know, that's going to prove that they're a little off. So once you can get the whole back section pegged together like that, if you can get it right, it should stay fairly decently. It's just hard to do. Then you're going to push the windscreen, and then just this whole part just drops right on there. And then this will kind of pop up just like that. And then this panel in the front, you can see there's a tab slot there and a tab, and then a tab slot there and a tab. So you just pop that over there, push in, and then pop this over here and push in. And again, it doesn't stay together 100%, but if you do it correctly, and it does take a little bit of finagling to get it done correctly, it stays together fairly well. And I kind of like the look of it. It's very basic. It's just a black SUV, but it has a nice Decepticon symbol there on the side, on both sides. And I can understand it looks a little weird because there's so much space in the wheel wells, but I think that was, I don't know if it was necessarily done on purpose, but it looks like it was done on purpose so that you know, you can see like shocks and stuff like he's going off-roading. But it's decent. It's a decent little SUV. Now, it does have weapon storage. You can see these two spots right here and here. You can take these, and they have these weird little hooks, and they just peg. Make sure I'm doing this right. One pegs in. Am I doing this right? Yeah, one pegs in like this, and the other pegs in like this. So you can see them underneath there. And no problem. And I'm sure I just messed this up a little bit by pegging them in. There we go. Sorry, again, I'm off camera. I'm really the worst at that today. I apologize. But yeah, it can hold together decently well. Rolls really well. So I like that. Not a ton of paint, but I do appreciate that at least all of the windows are painted. That's a big deal. Because it's a really nice, like, midnight blue. And it goes really well with the black. You have the white of the headlights. You have the little Chevy symbol painted gold. I mean, this guy actually has, like, more paint than most of the Deluxes. He's one of the better painted Deluxes, I really have to admit. What did I do here? There we go. Stay together, you. But yeah, all the windows are painted. You have the red for the sirens on top. You have the back lights that are red. You have a Chevy symbol on both sides, for front and back. White of the headlights. You have a nice Decepticon symbol on both sides. I mean, it's pretty nicely painted. The robot mode I thought was pretty nicely painted as well. So this guy got some nice treatment as far as paint apps go. I really like that. And I like the vehicle mode. Like I said, I know a lot of people are having trouble keeping it together, but it is possible. You just take some practice and some time to make sure you have everything lined up. And I mean, it doesn't stay together 100% all the time. You know, I understand that, but it can be done. And what you're left with is a pretty nice looking vehicle mode. I actually like Berserker a lot. I think it's a really nice robot mode. Well done. I like the way they designed it so that his design kind of makes sense if he really is a Berserker. You know, he's got kind of the haunch legs and the head coming straight forward, like he's always moving forward in battle. I love the design of the robot mode. I think the vehicle mode works. It is a little bit of a chore to get everything to line up and get all the panels to click into place correctly, but it can be done. Just takes a little finesse and a little bit of practice. So, I mean, given the fact that he's one of 3 new molds that we have so far, you know, there's slim pickings, and I definitely think he's worth picking up. I assume as the next wave happens, there's going to be more original molds. At least I hope there's going to be more original molds. But right now, it's a lot of repaints in this line. Legion class is almost completely, I think it is completely repaints. The one-step changers don't really do much for me. So I'm really just looking at the Voyagers and the Deluxes. And there's 2 new Deluxe figures right now, and there's 1 Voyager. And I think all 3 of them are pretty good. I would recommend picking them up. If you're looking for a last night fix, I think this guy will fit the bill. I think there's a lot of fun that can be had with this toy. There is some possible frustrations, but if you can work past that, I think he's definitely a nice mold, and I think he's worth picking up. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like and share this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you've enjoyed this look at Transformers The Last Night Premier Edition Deluxe Class Decepticon Berserker. Bit of a mouthful, but definitely a fun toy. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.